It's not just another week, but the final one for the year 2021, and of course the final one for the month of December. So compliments to you, our viewers. I trust that you had a wonderful Christmas celebration. We still have more holidays as we get to the end of the year. Good morning and welcome to Business Morning on Channels Television. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Well, let's start with oil prices. It's mixed this Monday morning, with Brent edging up while U.S. crude futures slipped after airlines called off thousands of flights in the United States over Christmas holidays and surging COVID-19 infections. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell by 41 cents to $73.38 a barrel. The contract did not trade on Friday because U.S. markets were closed for the Christmas holiday. And Brent crude rose 40 cents a barrel after settling down on Friday. In the past 3 days, thousands of passengers traveling during Christmas have been stranded after U.S. airlines cancelled flights because of COVID-related staffing shortages. In Europe, natural gas prices touched record highs last week on tight supply, supporting Brent crude prices. Well, back here in Nigeria, the festivities are still on, and so is the high cost of commodities, which many Lagos residents say have affected their purchasing power and the Christmas celebration. Our business correspondent Willie Bong went to the market to see, well, what's this about the surging price of food items? Let's see her.
Everyone looks forward to Christmas, irrespective of age, status, as well as location. But what determines the success of a Christmas celebration is the purchasing power. And with the inflation rate of about 15.4%, it is not so certain that a lot of people will be able to do good shopping for this Christmas. But let's get into the market and see what's trending.
There seems to be enough supply of goods at the Maltov market as trucks of foodstuff are seen ready to be offloaded. Lagos residents are seen trying to make last-minute purchases for the Yuletide. While the crowd seems busier than last year, it may be safe to say that the rising cost of commodities has affected demand.
I wish that the price is like 15,000 20,000 naira. You understand? Especially where you can manage, where you have many family. You understand? Can buy one bag or 1.5. You understand? But basically we're supposed to buy one bag, we'll buy quarter.
Our findings show that a 50-kilogram bag of rice is currently sold at about 30,000 naira. A basket of tomatoes is sold for about 20,000 naira, while the price of a 25-kilogram of vegetable oil was about 27,000 naira. Buyers lament the high cost of commodities in the market.
They've actually doubled in their prices. You know, what you get for 5,000 is now 10,000 naira.
Even prior to Christmas period, the things have been high. Everything like doubled up the price, everything.
Some blame the hike in food prices on security in the northern part of the country, which affect transportation of goods.
The price of diesel is high because diesel per liter now, there are some filling stations you go, you buy it at the rate of 350.
We have a challenging of insecurity in the north, whereby farmers cannot move to their farm to go and farm their products.
At the Kara Cattle Market, located along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the situation is the same as buyers lament hike in the cost of livestock, as traders complain of low patronage.
They are selling a medium ram for around 60,000-70,000 naira. Initially at maybe 35-40 then.
Oil is too cost. One trailer now, 600,000 and the carry pro note.
Although the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics announced a drop in inflation rate from 15.99% in October to 15.4% in November, it appears the impact of the drop is not being felt by Nigerians who, in spite of the challenges, still hope to celebrate this year's Christmas with fanfare. Will Ibang, Channels Television News.
And as the year draws to the end, the country's investment and business climate has been on the mind of many. One of them is the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Mude Yusuf. For Dr. Yusuf, issues such as activities around the ports and excise duties could deter investment and growth in the new year.
The proposal by the Federal Ministry of Finance to reintroduce excise duty on carbonated drinks is ill-timed and most inappropriate, given the prevailing harsh economic and business conditions. It is unfair to demand for payment for gas by industrialists in foreign currency when manufacturers are selling their products in local currency. Secondly, it is against the extant regulation and policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria on payments for domestic transactions. We request an urgent intervention by government to correct this anomaly. There is also the acute shortage and phenomenal spike in the cost of cooking gas. It is a paradox that as a leading exporter of gas in Africa, there is no framework to ensure adequate supply of gas to domestic market. Again, we request that this irregularity be corrected. There's an urgent need to ease the cargo clearing processes at our ports. This is a major component of ease of doing business, to which government has expressed commitment. We need to do this through the following. 1, we need to reduce the number of agencies involved in cargo clearing at our ports. 2, we need to deploy technology to aid the customs clearing processes. The use of scanner is particularly very important. It is a sad commentary that the largest economy in Africa has been examining cargo and containers physically and manually for the past few years. The effect of this on the cost of imports has been humongous. The interest payments on imports, demurrage charges arising from delays, the extra charges by shipping companies, additional charges by truck drivers, all of these have put a lot of burden on costs on investors and the citizens. We should expedite action on the single window system in order to minimize human interface at our ports. We need to put in place a credible and independent dispute resolution system in order to resolve disputes between the customs and the importers. The involvement of the police in the clearance of cargo should be discontinued. We should compel shipping companies and terminal operators to increase efficiency in their processes and provide the needed cargo handling equipment to expedite the clearance of cargo.
And at a time like this, there are businesses that thrive more, such as those involved in giftings and edibles. It's normally a time to crown the year's trading activities on a high note. But with COVID-19 and tight liquidity, well, I wonder how it is, looking at the reality of it. Well, we're going to find out that from Omonike George Aidu. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Birth Urge Mercantile Limited. She's involved in a business that does hampers and other gift items, among a whole lot of other things. I think Monica is involved in a whole lot of things. Good morning. Good to have you on the show. Compliments of the season.
Same to you, Hini. How are you doing today?
Doing good. I can see you're still in the Christmas mood.
Of course.
So talk to us. You're involved in, giftings, hampers, and all those edibles that are being shared at this period. Yeah. I wouldn't say let's compare to last year, because last year was a very different year. Yeah. Compared to the year before, that's 2019, how would you say business was before Christmas or for Christmas?
Okay, so I would say for Christmas, for certain, year before, was to some people, to a lot of people, was good. Because at the time, the influx of, or the challenges, of COVID-19 and all that was not really that much at the time. And so looking at the progression from that time up until now. Of course, last year was not so good. It was not so good at all. And of course, this year, if we look at what has happened between last year and this year is a little bit of slight improvement from what happened last year, but again, it's not where it used to be. Not where it used to be from the point of view of the disposable income from the consumers, from the people that would like to buy and give out to people. It's a bit tight now because people's sources of income have been challenged. All right. One, for the fact that yes, there's COVID-19 and people are just trying to see some bit of recovery, and now again the new wave of COVID is coming up, so everybody is trying to be careful, and especially for gifting. From the edibles point of view, whether we like it or not, we would hit. Yes, we would hit, but inflation has really done a lot of havoc. Especially when you look at hampers. Some people will tell you, oh, I want 100% imported items in my hamper. When you look at that, the prices of that relative to what we did last year, you will see that the markup in terms of increase in cost is over 40%. So,
between last year and this year.
So what you would normally have given to people for, say, 40,000 naira, you're looking at 60, 65,000 naira. And some people will come to you and say, just give me something basic. And for them, basic means just give me mostly Nigerian things, Nigerian items, Nigerian produce. But just do a little of, imported, maybe 1 or 2 items of imported. Again, even Nigerian items are really, really expensive now. Things have gone up. All right? And, when you look at people then buying, so like I said, for food items, for rice, because I sell rice, I sell vegetable oil in this season. For rice, just like I think in the news earlier, you heard the man talking about increase in price and all that. It's really, really, but despite that, people are still buying because
they say Nigerians are just, I saw a short video that was going viral some days ago about how we have this gene that makes us happy in spite of, so we have the ability to adjust.
Absolutely.
So you don't have as much, for instance, this year, you don't have as much demand for hampers as much, and then the composition is different.
Yeah. So for us, last year you would see people say to you that, I just want this, I just want that. Even the last year too was not so good, like I said, because of COVID. But this year, you will see a lot of people tell you, I want more of imported items. Of course, looking at if you like, the value people place on, the recipients of the gifts. So that, in a way, drives what they would want you to put in the pack, all right, in the hamper. And so you also want to look at, the profile of the people they want to give to. And you also don't want to drop the ball.
So does it mean that Nigerian-made produce or products are inferior?
No, not that.
Or are perceived to be inferior?
It's not inferior, but people want to outdo themselves. People feel that on a good day, you will normally buy Nigerian products. If I'm gifting you something, let it be something that you would not, maybe on a regular basis, buy on your own. So I think that a lot of times drives the way people give gifts to others.
So these imported products that you use, do you import them or you also go and buy? So that means you have a double price on it.
So the way it is that we have partnerships with some importers, all right? Of course, they depend on us too to make their sales. And they will not want to give us outrageous prices. So a lot of people depend on open market, but if you have, within your circle, imported people that import these things, you find out that your own prices will be a lot better than people that will probably go scouting for some of these things, on their own. So I think for us, it's a lot more better Yeah, if you want me to put it that way, that is a lot better for us because we have like partnerships with other people, you know, so it makes our things a lot more less expensive.
Okay, but I mean, for I think it's the 7th time or so, we've seen inflation taper from the NBS. For you as an operator of an SME at a time like this, what's your reality? How does that reflect in your business?
Truth be told, yes, we hear, oh, inflation has reduced by few basis points. But really, the impact on day-to-day activities of SMEs is really not there. You don't see it there. You don't see the impact of the reduction of inflation. Why? Because as it is today, purchasing power is low. You understand? So a lot of times you find out that at the end of the day, when people don't have the money to buy, what's the impact of that on inflation is next to nothing. So I think pretty much we need to, again, appeal to our government that we need to begin to see the reality, all right?
How would you prefer that the government approaches this so that it affects you as an SME? Because, I mean, SMEs occupy or engage a large population, especially people, you know, down there. The big conglomerates are just a couple of them up there.
So I would say that if you look at production, for instance, what we buy, SMEs, what we buy for raw materials are the same things the conglomerates buy as well. But the influence the big conglomerates have is that they buy in bulk.
So it becomes cheaper for them.
It becomes a lot cheaper for them. So I'm beginning to look at it from the point of view of government stepping into, you know, SMEs to say that, guys, come together, give us your demand, and let's see how we can help you to subsidize some of this. All right? Let's say, because raw materials, we don't have everything in Nigeria. Raw materials, port congestions, all of that, transportation, all of this affect, you know.
Taxes.
Taxes. Taxes. Monies that you lose as a business person, you don't necessarily have to lose. And at the end of the day, all of these things come on consumers, come on shoppers. All right? So at the end of the day, people are using little money that they have to buy at funny prices, of which some of these things can actually be nipped in the bud.
But can we plead with you, the SMEs, to help us promote, because we're talking of diversifying the economy so that the economy is not too dependent on oil. And I mean, with people like you, you can help us to push. We know that the taste of a lot of Nigerians is on foreign imported goods. That's why our import bill is so high. Absolutely. And all that. Can we depend on SMEs to help us circulate and push the locally made products, you know, so that we start to reduce our import bill?
So what I'll say to that is that Nigerians generally, we are aspirational in nature. Very aspirational. A Nika now wants to wear a wig that is from Brazilian wig. You know, Ini wants to wear. Why can't we say we want to wear a Nigerian wig? The lady did something for me, and of course I used during my uncle's chieftaincy. It was so beautiful. It was made in Nigeria. There's this plaited wig that was done. Very beautiful. We have exciting things in Nigeria. Our SMEs, we are producing great and amazing things. Amazing things that can actually be imported. So again, we appeal to us Nigerians to please patronize us. Patronize SMEs. We are trying. Please patronize us. All right? And of course, governments also, again, they have a lot to do with that as well. They have a lot to do in that. They should have a quota system for imported items. I've said this before, and I think I'm saying it again. They should have a quota system for imported items to ensure that at least some sort of premium is placed on pricing, so that can encourage the usage, all right, of products from SMEs. Products. I don't want to say locally. Nicely produced. I know it's
but it's just a
Nigerian
produced,
made, Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Monica, for joining us for this conversation this morning, and we wish you all the best as you enjoy the rest of the holiday.
Thank you so much, Ini. My pleasure to be here.
All right. So, Monica George Aidu is the Chief Executive Officer of Birth Urge Mercantile Limited, and of course, she spoke to us about the business of Christmas. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll look at the government's development plan to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Do stay with us. It's Business Morning on Channels Television. You're welcome back. Well, the Nigerian National Bureau of Statistics placed the number of people living in poverty that was last year at 40%. That's about 83 million Nigerians, while the country's poverty profile for this year, 2021, has not been released yet. It's estimated that the number of people living under the poverty line will increase to 90 million. That's about 45% of the entire population. Well, that sounds really worrying. But let's get the perspective of Chukwuka Moye. He is a social innovator and founder of AG Care Foundation to see how he sees these figures and what he thinks about it. Good to speak for you, Chukwuka. Thank you so much for being a part of the show this morning.
Good morning, Ine.
Good morning, and compliments of the season.
Compliments of the season to you.
So we get figures from the NBS, well, the most reliable for Nigeria. From your perspective, how good or bad is the situation, the poverty situation in the country?
How good or bad? Okay. Maybe what I'll do a bit is just to unpack that figure for a second. I think that figure must have come from, the $1, $1.9 that World Bank has sort of defined, to measure poverty, right? Yeah. The reality is that if we use 1.9, dollars, it comes to something around over 100 million people. Now, the reason why it is an alarming figure is not just because of the number itself, it's because of the rate at which it is further declining. It's a different thing if we said it was 100 million and we're getting out of poverty on a daily basis. On the contrary, we're not. We're actually adding to this poverty pool by 4.4 people per minute. That's why it's a crisis. Now, let's talk about or define poverty for a minute. Most times when we talk about poverty in the context of, okay, what can people afford to pay for? What can people afford to do for their daily living? That's good on the one hand, and that's what we're talking about when we talk about 100 million people. But there's another angle to this. If you're trying to get out of poverty, the reality is that in most parts of the world, those that drive transformation of any nation, there are two classes. One, the professional class, and two, the political class. Now, I'll put the political class on the side for a minute and talk about professionals. The reality today is that even the professional class is disoriented and disturbed by a lot of the things happening today. So you hear a lot of people saying they are leaving, right? People traveling out. Plan B. Plan B is a common thing that I hear now. Now, if those that are supposed to help the other segment get out of poverty are also leaving, the question now comes to who will then solve this problem, right? That's for me the bigger concern, because you're saying, okay, we're adding to this poverty pool. However, those that are equipped, educated, they have the skill sets, they have the capabilities to contribute and support and help those that don't have the capacity are giving up. Then where will the help come from? Then you have to go back to the political class and say, okay, the leaders. Yeah, but that's a conversation for another day, because I want us to focus on poverty and economics of it.
Okay, so there's this notion that poor access to education is a major cause of the increasing poverty number in the country. So it will also be interesting to know what we mean by this education, because you have some Asian countries, they don't do a lot of English, and yet they do a lot of innovation, and India, you talk about medical, so it will be interesting to not just look at it and say, because people go to school and graduate and don't get jobs or don't create jobs. So it will be interesting to balance when we say, is it because of lack of education, out of school children, that this poverty is increasing?
So it's a combination of different types of education. Now, let's talk about your out of school children. The figure is what? About 10.5 million. Okay, 10.5 million. And I hope you realize that what we're referring to is formal education.
Yes, formal.
We haven't factored in things like mentoring, coaching. We've not factored in things like role modeling and the effect of those things, and the other trainings that you give at home. Now, when you factor in all these different things, 10 million is a small figure. I would formally say that we are in crisis as a nation.
So sorry to disrupt you.
Because
are you agreeing with the fact that lack of access to education or education is a major factor increasing the poverty line?
Lack of it is contributing to this increase in poverty. You cannot get out of poverty without educating your people. It's a fact. And it's something that has to be looked at, it has to be tackled, and frankly speaking, it has to be, tackled with radical solutions. I don't think your conventional and traditional educational frameworks and recommendations are going to work.
What do you mean by radical?
I'll give you a simple example. Today, you have 100 million people in poverty, but I can tell you for free that 100 million people have mobile phones. I can tell you for free that 100 million people get on social media. 100 million people are in search of information. There's a reason why fintechs have potential. There's a reason why edtech has potential. When you have a blossoming youthful population, it is important that you begin to come up with solutions that are tailor-made for them. When I say radical, it's because of that volume, that number of people. Your brick-and-mortar educational solutions cannot address this gap. That's what I mean by radical. You have to start to think, okay, what can we do to easily ramp up the kind of information that we push out to the youth?
Can we say this is captured in the federal government development plan, the national development plan?
So the national development plan is good. My comments are twofold about the plan. Number one is it's all going to boil down to execution. Personally, it's not radical enough, but I recognize that, you have to start from somewhere. So even if we start with that, and it is well, will I say, managed, that whole process of implementing it, I think we'll be fine if it can be implemented. However, with the rate at which we're growing, with the rate at which the youth segment is growing, with the rate at which poverty is increasing, I don't see how a normal, traditional process will catch up. That's just my own concern.
Okay, so the president had said that Nigeria needs 348.1 trillion naira to achieve the 5-year national plan. Now, once we mention money, that brings another picture to mind. Where is it going to come from? Already we have so much, the debt profile has formed a lot of conversation. Our oil, we're not even producing as much. We can't even meet up with the quota that we're supposed to. We're talking of diversifying the economy economy. We don't see a lot of effort. So when the president mentions this, do you see these being achievable? 348.1 trillion naira.
It's a tough. It's
or
a
is
tough
it just?
one. It's difficult. It's difficult. And that's why I said implementation of the plan is now the concern. What I think might be more practical, but may not be the popular thing that people want to hear, is that, we phase, these plans. And quite frankly, you'll be amazed what Nigeria would become if we made education a priority. You'll be amazed how people who have nothing but have the minds, have the intellect, will create value out of out of nothing. There's a reason why I said earlier, whether it's blockchain, whether it is, the fintechs, whether, why is it that somehow when Nigerians get their hands into these sort of areas, that things thrive? They're informed, they're educated about it. So for me, if I had the opportunity, for instance, to, empower a lot of young people, I would just say, you know what, educate all of them.
Okay, so paint a reality picture here, because you're back to the education thing. So for you, I think it's education.
Is a big deal for me.
So,
it's a big deal.
And you talked about it being radical, not the brick and mortar kind of thing. Paint a picture here. If you had the powers, what would you do? How would you approach it? Would you have a center where anybody's admitted? Would you have people come to train? Just paint a reality picture.
So you will have a cocktail of education delivery solutions, but one of it will be that there's some sort of open, digital-based platform where people are learning, and then they get certified for some reason, right? So you're building an economic plan. What I'm saying is that instead of your degree certificate, can I go through a program online? And when I come out with a degree, a certificate from that online program, I will get a job, for instance. If I would, guess what will happen naturally? Everybody will go online.
But do we have the infrastructure? I mean, when last year, especially at the climax of COVID, when we said schools should go online, we know the challenges that we face with data, with power, high costs and all that.
Yes, but remember that it's the same problem we have with fintechs and mobile money. But guess what we did? We came up with agency banking. We came up with ways in which those that do not have data can come and access data. My point is, the moment you create a policy, a direction, a lot of value will gravitate towards it. People will start to come up with solutions in that direction. Right now, our thinking is still not in that direction. We're still thinking brick and mortar. We're talking about 100 million people. You can't solve that with old, traditional ways. We must think differently. We must think radically. We must start thinking digitally.
That's why we have youthful minds like you will. We have to stop there. Thank you so much. We have to stop there. Chukamoye, social innovator. We can see the social innovation there. And founder of AGK Foundation. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And we do believe this is a platform that is open, and the government's follow-up and ideas, shared here would also make a difference, especially as we get into the new year. So we're not talking about the same thing over and over again. Thank you so much.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your holiday.
All right, then. Have a good one.
So for now, let's do an opening call to the market. We have Will Ebong. I know the markets are closed today, but I think she has news for us from transactions from last week. Hello, Will.
Good morning, Amy.
Good
yes,
morning, Will.
Definitely the market was, especially the FX market, was a bit low. We saw a lot of declines in the market, especially in the FX spot, that's the I&E window. Total turnover was down by 2.2%. FX spot was 0.59%. If we break it down, specifically to see that it was, the forwards market was also down. Derivatives was, well, the only uptake we saw there. And we're hoping that the market will possibly move forward, because we've seen a decline week on week in the total forex reserves in the country, and we're hoping that that would probably move forward. But hopefully there was an uptick in the naira. The naira gained against the dollar by about 0.02%, with the current standing currently at 414 naira 29 kobo to a dollar, against 414 naira 39 kobo that we saw in the previous week. And then we move over to where we saw, we'll be talking about the I&E window, where we saw a 8.59% drop there, and then its total transactions stood at $999.03 million dollars to say. Now the fixed income market, the bonds market, was pretty quiet, with traders are still trading cautiously, and we're wondering why. But there was a sukuk, hopefully, I mean, gladly, I mean, with good news, the sukuk sovereign bonds was oversubscribed by about over 300%. And we saw basically, sorry about that technical glitch there. We saw basically that the sukuk bond was oversubscribed, and we're hoping that we're hoping that Bosun is going to be able to give us an insight into what happened there. Good morning, Bosun. Hello, Bosun, are you there?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Bosun, we saw that the forex market has been pretty, going down, especially the total turnover is basically just moving on the downward trend, but the naira gained against the dollar by 0.02% despite the drop that we saw in the forex turnover. What do you think is driving what drove the uptick in the markets?
Okay, on the handling window, if you look at the turnover week on week, even though we had a decrease of $40 million, if you look at it month on month, we've had an increase of $600 million month to date. So what we've seen is CBN has continued to intervene in the market. There has been a lot of intervention to the local corporate by the CBN. Usually CBN says to the foreign portfolio investor, which has been something that has been ongoing for the past 9 months. But what we witnessed in the last 3 months is CBN coming into the market to actually sell huge funds to the local corporate, specifically some key players in the agricultural sector and the beverage. So we've seen a lot of messages from CBN. That's what is causing the increase in turnover. And if you look at the reserve too, that's one of the reasons why the reserve is actually going down, because CBN has continued to actually sell to defend the naira.
Okay, so are you saying that we will continue to... What's happening to the forex reserve, total forex reserve? Are you saying that this, as CBN is defending the naira, what's happening? Is there any push? What's going to trigger positive increase in the forex reserves? What do you think will happen there?
Currently, the level, the higher rate is quite... and there's a lot of a difference between what we have in the SME window, SMEs window. So until we see the harmonization, maybe rates going to harmonize with what was obtainable at the retail SMI window, which we are seeing spot selling at 440 to 450. That's when we see the funds coming in from the foreign portfolio investors. So I believe that next year we can see the new foreign portfolio investor coming into the market when we start to see more home auction by the CBN, because what the foreign portfolio investor, what they come to do is to actually invest in our fixed income market. So, and at the current rate, the rate is quite unattractive. The last auction, 1 year closed at 5%. And we have another auction this week. We don't expect we expect it to actually come down a bit. So until we start to see an improvement in yield and a more frequent issue of homo, then that's when we'll see a foreign portfolio coming there. The rate can actually stabilize at attractive level, not the square level.
Okay, thanks. So we're going to move back to the Sukuk Bank, which I mentioned earlier. We saw that there was an oversubscription of over 300%, and they said it was an unprecedented level of over 865 billion naira. Can you break this down for us? What happened with the Sukuk Bank?
Okay, so on the Sukuk, so it was actually oversubscribed by about 346%. So the DMO intended to raise about 250 billion, and the subscription was 865 billion. So we saw a lot of interest from the banks and the fund managers. So what we saw a day before the closure of the Sukuk was an increase in the rental rate from 12.8 to 13%, which is quite attractive compared to where 2037 federal government bond is trading. So it was quite attractive. And when you compare this to what is obtainable in the CB and homo space recently, so it's more of you looking at what's the yield level. So people actually prefer putting their money in an attractive instrument that actually qualify for liquid assets. So that's why we saw that the increase in the participation rate. And banks like this, they actually went to actually invest the high fund in the Sukuk bond.
Okay, so what should we expect in the market next week? Very quick one. Just give me a very short one. What do you expect in the market this week? Firstly.
On the money markets, I expect rate to actually to trade a single-digit level. On the fixed income space, I expect a quiet market. The center stick on Wednesday will be the NTB auction, where we about 52 billion will be on auction. It's just a rollover what is maturing, and we have a 60 billion over maturity as well. So I expect a quiet market this week. For next year, there needs to be another ball game.
Thank you so much, Bosun, for that insight. That's Bosun Ubembe, fixed income dealer at Access Bank. Ini, we're back to you now. That's how market is trading, and we're hoping that after the holiday break, which went tomorrow, we're hoping that we'll see more bullish and not quiet and cautious trading as analysts are expecting.
Yeah, we'll certainly look out for that. Thank you so much, Will. Well, we'll take another quick break now. When we come back, we'll do an opening call to London. Do stay with us. It's Business Morning on Channels Television. You're welcome back. Well, the spread of COVID-19, especially the Omicron variant, dampened the Christmas celebration in some countries. And countries not taking precautions, we're now recording really high figures. Let's find out the situation in the UK with Juliana joining us now. Hello, Juliana. Compliments of the season.
Compliments of the season. Good morning, Annie.
Good morning. So how was Christmas with the threat of COVID-19 really close?
Yes, well, fortunately or unfortunately, I didn't spend Christmas in London. I was on the European continent in mainland Europe. But of course, as we know from the reports, it's a very similar scene in Europe. The variant figures are rising pretty high. There has been a blackout over the past couple of days. So at the moment, we're not really sure what the situation is. What we do know is that Prime Minister Boris Johnson is due to meet with his top scientific team, which include the Chief Medical Officer for England, Sir Chris Whitty, as well as Sir Patrick Vallance, who is the Chief Scientific Advisor. And it's crunch time. Will England put restrictions in place or not? Starting from today, other places around the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales have put in some sort of lockdown restrictions. We know that restaurants are closed, nightclubs are closed, to the dismay of the hospitality industry, because of course on the 31st of December, lots of revelers, if you're not celebrating in church, like to be celebrating on the streets or in nightclubs. So that's not going to be happening. But it depends really on the data now. Is the NHS going to be crippled by these rising rates? So that is the crucial figure. And whatever decision is made today by the Prime Minister, lots of people will be unhappy with it.
Yeah, well, but unfortunately it's the reality at this time. What about the aviation sector? In the US, for instance, a lot of airlines had to cancel flights. How is it going on there, the aviation sector in the UK?
Well, it's not been great. Of course, it is a bank holiday today and it's a bank holiday tomorrow. So we're not really getting any figures out from the aviation sector, but we know that Christmas is a time where most people like to travel. Last Christmas was practically ruined by COVID-19. Again, we were seeing repeating figures this year, but because lockdown had been lifted from so many parts of the world, hundreds and thousands of people wanted to travel. They wanted to see their loved ones, but because Omicron is spreading so rapidly, there are so many people that are calling off sick. As you said, this was a really huge issue in America, I think, where the bulk of the 8,000 flights that have been cancelled across the world were cancelled. Don't think it was just the variant, though. I think there are some extreme weather patterns taking place in that region across the world. But nevertheless, many people were displaced at airport. Another 15,000 flights were delayed because of COVID and because of the restrictions that have been put in place at the border. So no, it's not been great. It's not been as smooth as one would have hoped, particularly, as we said, this is a festive period where lots of people want to travel across borders to spend Christmas with loved ones.
Yeah, and it's the last week for the year. What are we expecting?
It's a slow week, of course, 2 bank holidays. So there's bank holiday today, a bank holiday tomorrow, markets are closed. I think now people really, Inni, are just, crossing their fingers, holding their breath. There's a word, a term in England nobody likes to hear. I'm not sure if you've heard of it before. It's called lockdown. Nobody wants to hear that from the Prime Minister. We are getting a little bit of feelers. We know that this Conservative government do like to spread the news to the press before they spread the news to the British people. And what we're hearing is that schools, which are due to open, I believe, on Monday, Tuesday, won't be affected by this. We know that there was such a disastrous period during the first lockdown that education is seen as supreme. So no lockdown for schools. We're not expecting that. We're also not expecting any sort of restrictions to affect the numbers at weddings and funerals. And perhaps what a lot of observers are suggesting is that Prime Minister Boris Johnson may not ask for any legal restrictions, but he will ask people to start using their good common sense. And people have been doing that over the past few days, following the guidance, getting their booster jabs. It's all about booster, booster, booster. The goal was to get 1 million people a day jabbed with a third shot. That's not happened as of yet. There are, I believe, about 11 million spaces available within the NHS for people to get their vaccines. If you are watching in the United Kingdom and you haven't had a booster or even a first jab, please go and do so. That's exactly the government guidance. So yes, pretty quiet day. But I'm sure we'll find something to talk about over the next couple of days, isn't it?
Well, things will always happen. Even if it's just the Prime Minister talking, we're going to have a lot to talk about. Thank you so much, Juliana. And please do stay safe in the midst of all of this.
Thank you. Thanks, Vinny.
So now let's take a peep into the crypto market. Laddie Williams is itching to give us updates. Laddie, how was your Christmas?
Well,
did you do what Juliana? Did you go to the islands like Juliana?
Well, I was right here, Inni, for your information. Anyway, the market is not looking bad. Still searching for direction, but there's still fear in the market. Good thing is it's not extreme fear like we've had, a couple of days ago. Now, market cap about $2.40 trillion. It's up 2.41%. Volume is a little down this morning there. You see it's $72.21 billion in the total crypto market. Bitcoin dominance 40.17%. Price of Bitcoin, it's maintained above the 50K level this morning. It's $50,900 at 8 a.m. It's up 2.14%. 24-hour volume traded in Bitcoin, $20.30 billion. So it's not looking bad, but the bulls are still trying to maintain keeping Bitcoin above this 50K price there. Let's bring in Olumide Additional now, financial market analyst. Good morning, Olumide. Compliments of the season.
Yeah, same to you, Laddie. Good morning.
Good morning. So, it's been not a bad year for cryptocurrency. We've seen Bitcoin get to about $68,000, Ethereum $4,800. But I'd like to get, from your eyes, how has the market performed?
Yeah, from your analysis, the same narrative on my end, because you need to understand that despite the fact that we are in seasons, in the season of staying at home, the crypto market is busy up, and that's because of the centralized nature. We've seen the market that has been less than 13 years old already having market value of more than $2 trillion. Already Bitcoin in 2021 is up more than 70%. If you look at the Nigerian stock market, year-to-date gain stands at just about 5%. So it fairly tells you that the narrative around the crypto world is increasing. And, there are certain things you can't take out in the year of 2021. You look at how NFTs have dominated the space. And look at, despite the fact that we had the crypto ban intensified by the Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigeria still happens to be one of the biggest markets. If you look at recent statistics from Google Trends, it shows that Nigeria is just behind El Salvador in Bitcoin interest. That gives you credence that Africa's most populous nation has a strong footprint in the crypto ecosystem. So we are expecting that momentum to build up towards the coming year, despite the fact that we are seeing that cash flows will be tightened because of the U.S. Fed might start to increase interest rates, and that will somehow limit risky assets upside. But on the narrative gain, I think we can't ignore the impact Shiba Inu, Dogecoin, and other meme coins have had this year, and also Solana. I think this is the year for Solana too. This coin that was trading at about $3 early this year, already moving near to $200. That just gives the credence of how this blockchain backed assets are doing right now.
Quite an incredible run by Solana there, but you know, it's getting to the end of the year. Where do you see Bitcoin closing the year?
You know, it's a very tricky question because personally, I wasn't seeing Bitcoin coming back above 50 because we were already looking at the fact that the US dollar was already gaining momentum and the momentum kept on powering on. But just like you said, the fact that we're seeing Bitcoin fighting to stay above $50,000 suggests that it's likely that Bitcoin might stay above 45 in some days' time because we barely have 6 days to the end of the year. And I think there's nothing rash happening, but we can't ignore pending regulation coming from the U.S. Also, the fact that we're seeing things around stablecoin getting tightened. So it's left to be seen if the momentum would come solid in 2022. But I think as far as 2021 is concerned, I think the crypto market investors have a lot to smile about.
Okay. All right. All right, Lumide, thank you so much. Remains to be seen if buying pressure, comes back to this market. Thank you, Lumide.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
All right, top of the market cap that we see at BNB, it's all green with Cardano there, the biggest gainer, $1.48, up 4.51%. The next RP, 92 cents, 1.18%. So it's not a bad-looking market, but there's still fear.
Yeah, Ladi, I'm still waiting for that $100,000.
I'm waiting
for
myself.
Bitcoin.
Yeah,
I'm still waiting for it. And I mean, it's how many days to 2022? So
but some have said that it might not come this year.
Obviously.
I'll be looking at next year for that 100K.
All right, thank you so much, Ladi, for that market analysis. And that's a wrap on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We're excited because it's the last week in the year of 2021, and we're going to make it as memorable as possible. So let's do this again tomorrow. But remember, 1:30 p.m., Business Incorporated will be here to give you updates from the world of business. I'm Ini John Mekwa.